Welcome to Keep IT Healthy podcast, a show hosted by people making things happen in technology, aiming to optimize healthcare delivery, health, well-being, and fitness. My name is Jan Kamiński and I'm the co-founder of AppLover, a company dedicated to improving the quality of life with IT solutions and digital advisory. We started making this podcast to amplify great thinking to propel healthcare forward. My guest today is Renata Talarek, CEO and co-founder of iSport Agency. Hi, Renata.
Hi everyone. Very nice to meet you, and thanks for the invitation.
All right, so maybe can you tell us the backstory about what brought you to this career path and maybe something about yourself?
I think the most important part of my career, it was the experience in private banking. I was working 10 years in private banking sector, and I had a huge luck because I was working in a marketing department, and during all my career, in fact, I have a project and I run a project that I created from scratch. So in fact, I didn't think about it, but step by step, in fact, I was preparing to run my own business, in fact, because each project was completely different and I needed to create an idea, prepare a strategy, do an execution, very often also found additional funds because most of the time bank supported me with some basic funds, but at the end, if I wanted to reach a high level of project, I needed to find an extra funds. So step by step, I was gaining some skills. And yes, I think that this experience shaped me the most in terms of business. And thanks to the fact at my last stage of career in the bank, I was supposed to create a triathlon team. It was something like a lifestyle project inside the corporation. So as I mentioned, I had luck because I was working in financial company, but all my project was around lifestyle. And very quickly, I realized while building this triathlon team that, first of all, there is a huge niche on the market. But maybe before this, when I wanted to build this team, I realized that the team consists of 40 people and there was no woman. So I was thinking that something is wrong, or maybe
Something should be changed.
yes, and something should be changed. So of course I can create another project, and of course I will do my best to do it perfectly. But at the same time, I wanted to show that there is also a place for women in triathlon, or maybe verify if there is no place for women in triathlon. And very quickly I realized that in fact these are just three the most common disciplines, and it's very available because I to prepare to triathlon, I started to learn how to swim, and it took me 6 months. And I realized that communication play really a huge role in how we can inspire people to be active, because at the end I also completely reshaped my way of thinking about sport. I was always active, but thanks to the triathlon I realized that regular activity, smart activity, and in fact the motivation is the key. And what we should do is to find the proper motivation, and what's more, the positive motivation, because if we are thinking about sport only in the way how to lose our weight, because this is the most popular motivation, we will always think about sport as something negative. So this is like my real adventure with sport started. And I also realized, as I mentioned, that there is a huge niche. And at the last year of my career in bank, when I wanted to quit the structure, I had a conversation with, now it's a former CEO of the bank, who was also a triathlete. And we were talking about our thoughts, and we were sharing our thoughts about sport market, not only in Poland, but in fact in the world. And he shared with me his idea and small dream about a training company. And in fact, after this conversation, it was like 1 month, and we both quit the structure of the bank, and we created Yes together, and the company is named iSport. It exists till now. It reshaped plenty of times as most of the startup. But what is quite interesting, maybe also in the term of our conversation, that when we quit the bank, we didn't think about the company as a tech company or as a startup, because for us it was a company, and as soon as possible we wanted to have first clients. So our business approach, sales approach, marketing approach, and knowledge and experience were very huge. But in terms of technology, our knowledge was less than zero even. So you can imagine what we faced, because in 8 months,
Right.
yes, in 8 months we built, in fact, three component of our company, and it was a web platform, application, and also something like CSR project with gamification components. So amounts of mistakes that we did. Of course, we expect, and we were sure that our product is the best, and we didn't expect that clients will have some different point of view, and we weren't prepared for all the criticism that we have. And with technology, there was a lot of things that I think after launching the platform and the whole ecosystem of our product, we didn't know what to do, because in fact we didn't know if we need to resolve the problems or we should continue sales and see what happens. So the first month was very, very difficult. But as I mentioned, I think the difference between, as I can see how businesses are working now, we didn't have knowledge with technology, but we have a huge knowledge in sales, in marketing, and thanks to this, very quickly we became one of the biggest remote online training platform on the Polish market, and we received a lot of offers from abroad to launch our idea in those markets. So yes, without technology, we did startup. We didn't know that we did a startup.
All right, so I have so many questions to that. Before we jump into the iSport agency in general, I just wanted to ask you if you are still a triathlete. Are you still training?
No, in fact, no. If we will think about triathlete as a person who is training those three disciplines like running, swimming, cycling, so yes, but I'm not preparing for any competition. And here the COVID-19 changed a lot and changed both market and all the event organizers, and in fact also the approach of many triathletes. And I think that it was like a good break after a couple of years training triathlon and preparing for amateurs races. And now I'm still active. I'm doing a lot of sports, and without sports I can't exist, in fact. But I try to try as many disciplines as possible. And in fact, this is something also that we are doing in our company. It's trying to inspire society and different target groups just to find their own disciplines, or try as many as possible to find your own way in sport.
Sure. And you mentioned that COVID changed everything. And did you notice an increase in clients? For example, for like more people started training in general, and you had the data that showed that?
In fact, it was completely opposite. And in fact, during pandemic, I can say we closed the period of iSport as a training platform. It was hard, but unfortunately it was necessary. And I think like most of the companies, we could close our business or redefine what we will do, and we started to think more about physical activity than sport. And in fact, people started to think more about their health. It was very difficult, and in fact, the very important was the budget, and people started to think for what they are spending their budget, and sport wasn't the first choice. So yes, and in fact, in our business, because it was training platform, and mostly we prepared people for amateur racing. As you know, the whole or sport organizers events were closed, and
Right.
so our market, in fact, in a couple of weeks disappeared. So it was a challenge, and yes, this pandemic uh, has an impact on us in the way how we were thinking about business and how we were thinking as a person about sport.
Okay, and as I know, iSport Agency is a partner of Phoenix Foundation. And could you share some more insights on what the foundation is in general, and what was the form of cooperation with the foundation? What was the role of the agency?
Yes, in fact, we was the agency that gives a service to foundation, and we have a huge luck because we started to cooperate with foundation. It was like very. I think the period was like when pandemic started. We started to work for Phoenix Foundation, and at the beginning, because it was the beginning of agency, and in fact the beginning of the foundation, so we had a structure as a company because we already run a business for a couple of years, and thanks to this, we were able to, in fact, became both an agency and, in fact, at this first stage, also a team that was creating the foundation. And
Okay.
for the first 2 years, when foundation didn't have the structure, we were playing both roles, and our main goal was to create the education program. Education in the meaning sport education in Poland, and then implement it in other European countries. And our role was in some of the project was creation from the beginning, preparing a strategy, execution, communication, taking care about KPIs. And I think this is quite important because the Phoenix Foundation is not a typical foundation. And also thanks to the fact that in my company, almost all team has a business background. In all activities, we have a business background. And in fact, the founder of foundation, with his business experience, his entrepreneur, and also very keen in sport, we started to think about foundation more in the business way, and we always were aware who is our, I can say, customer, because we targeted all our project to kids, but who is our audience and how we should attract them and inspire kids to be active, because the goal of foundation was to inspire as many kids as possible to be active, and all projects that are creating, the main goal is to reach kids and show them the diversity of sport, and show them sometimes that sport can be their way in life and push them to professional career.
But I like that. That's like the American approach to running a foundation.
Absolutely, and yes, we see the difference because, in fact, the founder of foundation, Sebastian Kulczyk, it was like by by accident that start of foundation runs with start of pandemic, and some of the people think that we had such a great idea about technology, for example, and implement technology because of pandemic, but in fact the implementation of technology was before the pandemic, and because Sebastian is very involved in all startup sectors and is very aware of technology and the strength of technology, it was obvious for us that most of the project or some of the project needed support of technology, and that's how, in fact, also we started to maybe not started to think about application, because Sebastian also knew exactly what application he wanted, and it was like application for kids that count steps. But we started to develop it, and it was one of the project inside the whole cycle of project around the whole year, because we invented the strategy, and the whole year we had something to offer for schools, parents, kids, so that kids are with us whole year.
Right, but you mentioned an app. Where did the inspiration for the foundation app come from?
It was from the founder, and in fact, that Sebastian wanted. I think that it was 3 years ago, but I think that what the application and the mechanism that counts steps. We wanted something simple, something engagement, and something with gamification. So in fact, it was the goal to have an application thanks to which kids can compare with each other, can have the simplest activity, and can win sport rewards. Because we thought that the biggest motivation for kids is, first of all, gamification, and there needs to be a gamification. And in application, we each month we set up challenges, individual and group challenges, and at the end, the most active kids, sometimes when the challenges are between schools, the most active schools win rewards. And in fact, this is simple mechanism, but it worked. And thanks to the fact that we put a huge emphasis on distribution channels and promotion application, the effects are still amazing, in fact.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that's true. Maybe you can share some data here, because your app was a tremendous success, especially in the media. So, what effects has the foundation recorded thanks to the app so far?
Till now, so I mean it's 2 year and a half that application is on the market and it's available. There is more than 150,000 kids registered to the application.
Wow.
So yes, and this is the results without, maybe not without a huge campaign, because maybe later I will tell about also a campaign that we did with Wielka Orkiestra Świątecznej Pomocy. But it's 150,000 kids registered. It's more than 3,000 schools that took part in different challenges on the application. So this is for us also a huge success, because most of the foundation companies that try to cooperate with schools have a huge challenge to persuade them to use technology, and for us it was quite easy. What's more, in each challenge, because during 1 month we have about 4 or 5 individual challenges, and like one time per 3 months we have inter-school challenges. We have in one challenge about from 5 to 10,000 kids that take part in challenge. So for us, this is quite a good results. And as I mentioned, now we are not doing, and we don't have also budget for a huge promotion. The biggest change, and I think the biggest wave of the kids and school was thanks to the Wielka Orkiestra Świątecznej Pomocy. And we organize a Polish competition for schools, and we have 2 goals. First goal was we were looking for the most active school, of course, and the 10 most active schools won the rewards. But at the same time, we had a common goal, and it was we wanted to collect 1 million steps. And if kids would collect 1 million steps, the foundation give 1 million zloty to Wielka Orkiestra Świątecznej Pomocy. And of course, 2 times we reached the goal, but the effects were amazing, because in fact we had more than couple hundred of schools, and just 10 won the reward. So this engagement and this common goal and the building community was really important. And this is something that is worth emphasize, that the idea something is sometimes more important than a huge technology.
Yeah, and you also said that you are trying to reach foreign markets. Is your app available somewhere except for Poland?
Yes, in fact, the strategy of the foundation was that all the project that we invented and implemented, in fact, we implement to verify if the project works. So the Polish was a testing market, and then we implemented the same project or some of the project in Switzerland, Spain, UK, Australia, and Thailand. But mostly we focus on the Europe. And application was launched in Switzerland, Spain, and UK. So yes, this they tried, but it was like their first attempt to implement the team that worked internationally. They learn how to use technology, and this is very important. And I think this is what we can do, in fact, in our everyday work. If we have a chance to learn others how they should work with technology, what is technology is, and in fact, sometimes technology it's not the only solution. Like technology is something that supports us, but the other part of work needs to be done.
Basically, if you can give some examples, how else can an IT solution promote pro health behaviors in general?
I think this is such a huge area how IT can support, because from I think that I can list some of the solution, like hyper personalization, reaching mass market. What's more, gamification. This is something that is so
You
important.
use that, right? You use gamification yourself in the end.
Yes, we are using, but I think we are using this, but not in advanced level. We still have a lot to learn in this path. But yes, gamification. I think now everything that is around experience, it's necessary to reach all target groups. So that's why I think that pandemic also developed strongly this all online racing, streaming, and this is completely different area of how IT can support. But one, how we can in fact participate in sport events, how we can train and be on our regular with our regular activity, and on the other part, how we consume sport, because it affects us a lot. So yes, I'm not an expert in all of those aspects, but what is
Sure.
interesting, and we try to focus now on Generation Z, and here I think that the streaming play a huge role. Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned some marketing campaigns, and as I said, I know you had tremendous success in especially in this area. So maybe you can share with your audience some of your favorite examples of supporting marketing communication using a mobile or web application.
I think I can mention about one that we did at the beginning. It will be, in fact, I have one favorite from our experience, but I think there are plenty on the market that are worth mention also. But it was like at the beginning of a training platform, and at the beginning, I mean, after a couple of months, we started to analyze exactly who is our clients. And from data, it was obvious that our clients were men between uh, 35 and 50 years old. And of course, it was like the abonnements that were most popular. It was triathlon, running, and cycling. So I think not without significance was the fact that I was in triathlon, and I started to think, is our product dedicated to men, or in fact we create communication that reach men? And
Right.
before we started to build a strategy that targeted our clients, I wanted to check where is really the, maybe not a problem, but if the target group is determined by the product or by communication. So I wanted to check and create a project dedicated to a woman in triathlon, and we create a project called, I don't know, it's in Poland, it was Kobiety na wagę złota. In English, it doesn't sound so good because it's like woman worth gold. And it was connected with Iron Man and people from Iron. So we wanted to show that women also can find their place in a triathlon, and we really create a huge ecosystem of elements that needed to catch attention of women. The gold as a color were everywhere in communication. And we have communication, we have dedicated social media, we have in fact, it was curious because thanks to the fact that we changed communication, we brought sponsors to the project from completely different area, because it was fashion, beauty industry, and it doesn't happen in triathlon. Also, we reached some women ambassadors that supported our campaign, and also we have in fact combination, because we, of course, we wanted to sell a training service and training service, and brought women to our platform. But also, in fact, we did a lot of good things, because the project was a huge success. And in the triathlons, because we have one partner, it was a triathlon in Poznań that accepted our idea. And we did like the first, because you do triathlons, the first wave that started the race was created by women. All girls had a gold cap, and we created a gold wave. So it was really beautiful, and it was really stunning when we were looking at it. Was thousands of women started in triathlon, and mostly for the first time. So this is like we showed that in fact sometimes it's worth to think what determine your target group. Is it product, service, or communication that you created? And in this case, we just proved that the communication matters. And before you started to create the campaign, think really very intensively who would you like to target. And yes, I think that mostly in sport, when we are talking about trends, this micro targeting in communication is crucial.
Okay, and out of curiosity, if you look at the triathlon market right now, is it equal with men and women, or there is still a big disproportion?
It's not equal. But I think that more and more women are taking part, and I think it won't be equal because of different things. I don't want to say that time. The most important thing is that it's still not equal, but not because of physical or mental aspects, because there are so many amazing women that take part in triathlon, and what is very important, that are very active in social media and show that triathlon is really for everyone. So I think that triathlon is very specific, but it's a great example, in fact, around discipline that, I don't know, apart from running and fitness, I think triathlon is a discipline with which people identify very strongly, and they show their training, they show the races, and thanks to the fact they promote the disciplines. And this is something that I would like to underline plenty of times, and this is our most important work. Without promotion, without high quality promotion, and the promotion in all channels, all social media, we won't promote sports. So triathlon is doing a great job, and mostly people who are taking part in triathlon are real ambassadors. And
triathlon is also a great networking sport. There's a lot of people connect or from business or connected to business that actually are training. Would you agree, or would you rather say that it's a like completely open sport in a sense.
I it is a sport that I think
Attracts
touch
business.
attract business, yes, because of different things. It's starting from the challenge, and if someone is in business and like to have a goal, a reaching goal, breaking the barriers, yes, the triathlon is perfect. The second thing is, I think we need to say that the triathlon is not a cheap sport, and if you are in triathlon, if you want to train, it's like apart from running, which is the cheapest, you need to go regularly to swimming pool, you need to have a bicycle, you need to pay to take part in races, because I don't know if we can say that someone is training triathlon without taking part in a competition, because as I
Right.
mentioned, you can be active and train those three disciplines separately, but I think that the race is like you need to take part in the race, or yes, after taking part in the race, you can say that I'm a triathlete. So yes, and in fact, also I think that there is a something like a great organization of time. So I think that people who are in business and who are used to have a plan, schedule, and know that to reach goal you need to have a plan how to organize your time, and you need to perfectly organize your time. So yes, I think that maybe sometimes it's also uh, yeah.
No, no, I just wanted to add that it takes time. I mean, it actually takes time. You need to have a lot of time to train, but like properly for, of course, longer distances. If we're talking about those shorter ones, obviously, then that's different, right? Okay, and you mentioned the trends. So we were talking about the trends a bit. What are the most important trends that will help to promote healthy behaviors in the coming years? What are your opinions and thoughts on that?
Last time we strongly focused on Generation Z. So, in fact, my perspective about trends is strongly connected with this generation. In fact, this generation is now one of the largest social group on the market. So, when we are thinking about trends, when we are thinking about challenges, for me, it concerns this group. So, I think that first trend that will reshape and is reshaping how sport looks like is streaming, all kind of streaming, because it's also quite huge spectrum. But I think the way how we will consume sport, how we are consuming sport, it will affect also how we will do sports, because it is connected, like all in fact in our in the vision of our companies, always this professional sport has an impact on amateur sport market. So how we consume sport, that matters. Of course, gaming experience, but gaming experience for me also with a huge connection with reality, and how we can transport gamification experience into reality. And we already have some great examples of how we can do it. And one of my best example is how Roland Garros did it, and they create an experience, gaming experience for children, for youths, and the reward was taking part in the game, in competition, in tournament. So this is perfect way how to promote discipline, how to promote, in fact, their own brand. If I want to mention AR, VR, and metaverse, it will be strange, but of course, yes. In fact, everything this will in fact change completely how, yes, once again, how we experience. I know it's for some people it's still far away, but for those who are strongly in health and sport industry, they need to start, even try to understand how it works, because it will we are talking about trends and we are talking about future, but what is very important that it's not future, it's what is happening now, and we need to be aware of it. And hyper personalization, I don't know if you can call it a trend, but this is something that from very beginning we are underlining, and thanks to technology it can become more personalized. And we need to remember that now we need to promote, and we need to give very personalized service, product, and also communication. So yes, even this not just personalized but hyper personalization, this is a good word. And maybe it's not a trend, but it's still a huge need. And I think we need to underline as many times as possible that social media are needs, are not trends anymore. But if you are not in social media, and talking about social media, we are not talking about Facebook, we are talking about this different way of communication, and also thinking about different communication in different channel, and try to think how we can communicate differently in TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, and you just need to be there. So yes, I just don't want to talk about it like as a trend. I think that maybe the next topic or the next question will be about the challenges, and I think the communication and social media are the biggest challenge now, because this should be something that is on our regular work, but is still not.
Okay, so you actually mentioned that. So the challenges are there, and are there any other challenges that we are facing, especially in the promotion of pro health attitude, and and how companies like yours help overcome them in general?
For me, the biggest challenge is the gap that is now between Generation Z and other generations, because this is a really the biggest gap in the way what we are thinking, how we think about trends. Probably Generation Z is already very into this solution, and they are using this technology, and the way how they are advanced with technology, how they think about technology, how they consume sport, all gaming, all e-sport, and also what is interested for them in social media. And this is something we need to think. And in fact, our last couple of months here, it's all the time education our clients that uh, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, but we need to reinvent how we sell the wheel. And this is the key. This should be the first step, in fact, for me. That, for example, there are many events that all the time are telling that they have less participants, and they try to invent something new, something crazy inside the event. But it's not the problem. The problem is when you ask, okay, but how you promote the marathon? Are you using Instagram, TikTok? Are you posting regularly? Are you using video format? Are you using targeting email campaigns? Are you targeting, or are you thinking about your audience, who is taking part, what are they? No, so they are not doing these basic jobs. So I think that unfortunately, we are now talking about this local business. I'm not talking about huge company like, for example, Strava, who is for sure very high developed. But for this local country business, I think that there is still a lot of work in terms of communication and understand communication, because the generation Z is looking completely different in everything. So if we want to change our way of thinking, they won't change, the situation won't change. So unfortunately we need to adapt, and I think that our generation have absolutely a lot of values that we can share from our experience. But to do it, we need to start to think in the way. And I don't think that it's worse, because very often we can hear a sound that, oh my god, they are all the time with mobile phones, they are all the time using just computer. Yes, but if you want to have an impact of what they are watching, try to show them your perspective, but in a different way, because you need to do it.
Okay, and if you are to share three pieces of advice for originators and initiators of similar pro-social projects supported by IT solutions, but standing at the beginning of their path, what would those three advices be?
First, I think it's already mentioned in the question that everyone should remember that IT is a support, because I think that a lot of people think that while launching application or a web platform, the success is just around the
Right.
corner. But no, I think that after launching IT tools, the adventure begin. And the work, in fact, we should remember that these are two parts of work that should be done. First, before we launch IT tools, and then I don't want to say which is more important, but once again, without, and mostly when we are talking about pro-social projects, when the budget are not very high, and often there is no a huge budget for promotion, we need to think about our distribution channels, and very often we need to do it by ourselves. And we are a great example that it's possible, because this is how we work with schools. And in fact, the same work that was done with IT was done by my team, and we really do a lot of effort to build a relationship with schools and physical activity teachers. So this is first advice. IT is a support. You still need to do a lot of work. The second, I think that it will be quite obvious, but have a long perspective of your project and know what is your long-term goal. But I think as never before, be open, have open mind and open eyes for reshaping your project and product. Verify as often as possible what you are implementing with target group, and don't be afraid of criticism, because if you are sensitive, I think stay far away from technology because it's not for you. And the last, and maybe this is last and the most important, the budget. And here I have two advices. First of all, be aware of your budget, and be aware what IT tools, what IT budget consists of, because launching IT tools is just the beginning. And if you don't know what is after, and what you can expect, like help desk, SLA, development, or I think we can think about technology and application web platform as a website, because sometimes still it's like this approach that after launching is the end, and all costs were done. But no, it's still just a half of the price. And the last one, and maybe in terms of your companies, because we work like this with you, and it's much better than we did it before. Be transparent as much as possible about your budget. If the IT company know what budget do you have, I think we can avoid a lot of mistakes from the very beginning.
Yeah, they can propose something. Right.
Exactly.
And are you working on any new projects right now? Could you share some insights on those?
Yes, we our latest project, and in fact, this is something that will replace a training platform. It's iSport Fitness Index. It's a physical test and sport predisposition test, and it measured the level of physical activity, in fact, of the whole society, depending on the target group, because it can be proposed to children, youths, and adults. The communication and the goal is different. And within the main motor characteristics, yes, we measure this. This is something, in fact, that changed during pandemic, because we started to think about physical activity. And we can propose a personalized recommendation and solution only when we will know at which moment or which level of physical activity the human being is now. And in terms of kids, this is because after doing such tests, the client or the user is receiving the level of physical activity. And in fact, what does it mean? The strength and weaknesses, also a recommendation which sport fits the best to your natural predisposition, which is quite important, and recommendation of exercises. And in fact, in terms of kids, we already, and in fact, we already use this methodology with Phoenix Foundation, and it called Phoenix Active Score. We already tested 50,000 kids, and we digitalized the results, and each kids and parents that took part in our test can verify on the platform their results, what are the effects. Very important here is that in terms of kids, the most important is to show them the variety of sport and to tell them that in sport there is a place for everyone. The most important is to find your strength. In fact, not with the foundation, but the product that we are building now on the basis of on this methodology is called Find Your Sport Superpower. And this is the key in terms of kids. Also in the long term it can have scouting effects, because this is something also that market needs. And nowadays it's just the talents are taking from 9% of kids, and if we will have an access to all kids in the world, the effects will be completely different probably. Then in the terms of FIAFs, we are using this project also to verify the level of physical activity, but here we also are working of combination and connection between physical level of physical activity and mental health, because this is something that is the most important now, and this is the biggest challenge in this group. And we wanted to show by having the results that sport can be a great solution with fighting against physical this mental problem with yes. And at the end we have adults, and with adults this is a business product, because this is like an innovative well-being product for companies. It's already on the market. We sell it. We have first clients, and what we are doing now, we are launching technology, and in the long term we would like to implement telemetric technology so that we would be able to do all tests without devices, just with the use of mobile phone and the camera.
Okay. And are you planning to come back to the triathlon races? We'll be able to, see you somewhere soon.
Maybe one day, I don't know now. I switched to yoga because yes, I switched to yoga, and I tried to find a control on my body, because this is something funny. I was so sure that I'm so sportive after doing triathlons that I can do any other sport that I would like to, and I go to yoga lessons, and I was the worst. So it was quite a challenge for me. But I play a lot beach volleyball, and this is something that gives me a lot of fun. But we never know. I still have 3 bikes in my garage, and I don't know what to do with them. So maybe one day I will come back. And the most important for me is now, if maybe if I will have friends that will do triathlon, and it will be a community event and community race, that in fact we will go together, have fun, and after the race we will stay, have a beer together, have fun. This will make sense for me, and I will come back. But who knows?
The time will tell.
Yes, but I keep my fingers crossed for you and your half Iron Man.
I'm
I
planning. I'm planning.
I hope you will keep balance. If you have a problem, call me.
I will. I will. Our guest today was Renata Talarek. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you for invitation. It was a real pleasure.
Stay in touch with us, subscribe to our podcast, give us a like, comment, or share. If you want to reach out personally, you can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram.